best offensive player and their best defensive player.
Welcome to the Outback to Endzone podcast as we attack free agency as it's just ticked over day one. What a start to free agency, Jamie.
It is popping off, mate. Like, probably the hardest part about waking up in Australia is everything happens overnight. So I don't know if we had a different experience this morning, but I woke up and I was just hit with a wave of stress on my phone. I'm just trying to filter out to find out what the Colts have done. So
What's fake, what's not.
yeah, that's it. It gets you every year. And then we've had a bit of a headphone malfunction this morning as well. So
Jamie's wearing an antenna for the day.
I've got got some good reception from Marta's, but
We've got an exciting show today. So we sent out emails to nearly every 32 teams and got fans from each teams, whether they're reporters for the side, whether they're just fans, to give us takes on what they were hoping their team addressed this free agency. So we haven't looked at them. We're keen to sort of dive in.
I think we're going to have some pretty funny reactions. We've got a good mix of people over in the States, a few Aussies jumping on as well. So we'll run through a few today and we'll do the same next week. Some of it might be outdated, I'll be honest, because of how crazy this morning it is. I think it's Brandy. She's got the Raiders, and I tell you what, since she sent through that video about 24 hours ago, the Raiders have just gone nuts. So.
And we've already hooked her up to get a follow up because they've been busy.
All right, sweet. Well, I guess we'll rip into it, eh?
Yeah, well, first of all, we'll start off with the news. So what has happened during free agency?
We're kicking off a new segment today. Obviously, with all the free agency news and everything that's going on, we don't have 24 hours to talk about it all. So we're both going to have 30 seconds and we're going to run through every single team. So 30 seconds of madness.
30-second timer, ready to go. First up, we've got the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals, they picked up Tyler Algier, got Kendrick Bourne, and signed Gardner Minshew, who's probably the biggest one, going to be there to compete with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Look, they're rebuilding at the moment, so it's been a pretty quiet sort of off-season. I think that's probably the Arizona Cardinals covered.
20 seconds, all over, that far out. I'm going to have to change the name of the segment. Ex-Colts QBs, love to see that.
Yeah. Falcons, go.
Falcons have signed Dotson for 2 years, stretched the field a little bit, but look, the main thing I'm going to touch on is Tua Tagovailoa. Don't make me say his name twice. I signed him for 1 year, 1.3 million, and the craziest thing is Dolphins are paying out his 90 million or something crazy for his contract. So can that left-handed QB room get it going? Is he going to have success? Will he win the number one job? I don't know. I think he's cooked, but that's my opinion. 28 seconds.
Gone. Perfect. Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Baltimore have the massive move, signing Max Crosby. As a Browns fan, makes me scared for the quarterbacks that we've got. They've been pretty quiet. Other than that, they retained Tyler Huntley. So I'm going to use 20 seconds to talk about Max Crosby. What a move. A massive pull the trigger on 2 first-round picks, one of them being pick 14 in this year's draft, which is a lottery pick. So they needed to do it. They needed big back in playoffs next year. So bang, Max Crosby to the Raiders.
Done well there. You've done well. Lucky too much else didn't happen in Baltimore. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to give Max the time he deserved. I've got the Buffalo Bills coming off next, so get that clock running. DJ Moore has been the biggest story. They've finally got a true wide receiver one in Buffalo. Personally, I don't really rate DJ Moore. I think he's been pretty average. He didn't do much with Caleb Williams there last year. Other than that, they've signed Mitch Winishki, the Aussie, 1 year contract. Love to see a bit of love for the punters. I've signed a backup quarterback in Kyle Allen, but yeah, that's basically it for Buffalo.
As we go to the Carolina Panthers, they signed Jalen Phillips as the edge. He is a massive pickup, a massive addition, former Dolphin and Eagle, to get on the edge and sort of wreck the game a little bit. They've also signed Kenny Pickett as a backup quarterback. How many sides has Kenny Pickett been now in the last 2 seasons? He signed for 3 different teams in 2 seasons, so Kenny Pickett gets another go.
All right, we moved to Chicago. Been pretty quiet so far for Chicago. Neville Gallimore from the Colts got a 2-year, $12 million deal. That is a massive contract for a bloke that barely played for the Colts last year. In saying that, when he was on the field, he was pretty good. But
Devin Bush,
I
well,
was
sorry
gonna
to cut
say,
you off.
yeah.
Devin Bush had a massive year last year. I'm shattered we lost him at the Browns.
Yeah, they've actually had two decent signings there with Kobe Bryant and Devin Bush. Really strengthen up that already good defense.
The other one probably to look at was Drew Dalman retired earlier, their starting centre. So they're going to have to address offensive line this free agency. Into the Cincinnati Bengals, they've got Boya Mafe on a 3-year, $60 million deal. Braden Cook, 3 years, $42 million. Probably the biggest one is Trey Hendrickson is not going to be at Cincinnati next year. Former sack winner a couple of years ago. As they're going to rebuild, poor Joe Burrow, he needs an offensive line, especially with Max Crosby entering the AFC North.
Mate, that whole conference is going to be crazy. I feel so bad for Joe Burrow. He's got TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and now
Max Crosby.
Max Crosby to face 2 times a year. That's 6 real tough matchups. Next team, I've got the Dallas Cowboys. Big story is Rashawn Gary from the Packers has come back to Dallas. Other than that, they've retained George Pickens on a franchise tag. They've also done a second tender offer for Brandon Aubrey, which there was a lot of talk that he was after $10 million, which he came out and said it was absolutely crazy and not true. But good to see Brandon Aubrey's back there next year.
Perfect. Well, we'll head over to my team, the Cleveland Browns. We signed Zion Johnson, a guard from the Los Angeles Chargers, retained Ronnie Hickman on a second-round tender, and signed Quincy Wilson, the linebacker, as well. So we're going to need to address some offensive line. Obviously, the Browns got rid of every person. We made a trade a couple of weeks ago for a right tackle, Tyus Howard, I think his name was. So that's offensive line needs to be addressed.
Love it. Moving on to the Broncos here. They've re-signed Adam Troutman, 3 years, 17.
The big brown trout.
The big trout. That is a lot of money for the trout. Justin Stranad, 3 years, 18 million. Alex Singleton, they've brought on for another couple of years. The Colts QB, geez, Colts QBs are getting a good run. Ex-QB, Sammy Allinger, they've retained him for another year, as well as J.K. Dobbins, they brought him back for a couple of years. That's quite interesting. I thought he would run, but that's it for the Bronx.
As we head to the Detroit Lions, they've signed Cade Mays on a 3-year, $25 million contract, and Larry Borum. I'm not going to lie, I don't know either of them guys, so I'm not going to pretend to give you too much Detroit Lions news.
Moving on to the Green Bay Packers, they have traded for one of the Colts defensive captains, Ziggy Zaire Franklin. I'm pretty happy he's moved on, to be honest. I did love Zaire there for a bit. His podcast really started giving me the irrits there. I think he probably wasn't the true leader that we actually needed on defense, and he was chewing up a ton of cap. So we need to get younger and faster, us Colts. So I think decent signing for Green Bay. Good that the Colts got rid of him. They've also retained a few tackles there in Sean Ryan and Darian Kinner.
Over to the Houston Texans, they've signed Reed Blankenship, the safety from the Eagles, on a 3-year, $24 million deal. I think that's a pretty good deal too. Also got Dominique Robinson, 1 year, $4 million. They've retained Danielle Hunter, which that's a massive 1 year, $40 million extension, $30.7 million signing bonus. Huge money. Re-signed Trent Brown and a few other guys as well.
Ed Ingram was another big one there. Dalton Schultz. Where's their money coming from? How much cap room do the Texans have? Moving on to my Colts, we have signed edge rusher Arden Kay for 2 years, $20 million. Can't say I know too much about him. Looking forward to knowing a little bit about him. But the big stories for the Colts so far have been obviously the trade of Michael Pittman, but also who we've retained. We've got Alec Pierce back on the biggest contract ever given to a wide receiver. So I'm pretty stoked to have him, as well as using the transition tag on Daniel Jones.
Blake Groupie.
Oh, yeah, and the group. Yeah, we got the group back.
As we head over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, signed is TBA, no one as of yet. They've retained Montrak Brown, Dennis Gardeck, and Quinton Morris. Again, unfortunately, don't know any of them guys. So move on.
the Chiefs have gone out and signed the Super Bowl MVP, Kenny Walker. 3 years, $45 million, 28.7 guaranteed. That is a huge contract for a running back who I'm going to say is probably 27, 28. Was he?
I think he'd be a little bit younger coming out of Michigan State, but I love it. They've looked for a running back for years now. Like they had Pacheco, but Pacheco struggles. He's a 7th-round pick, probably cooked. Tried Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That didn't work. So at least they're going out and addressing it. With Mahomes coming off an ACL injury, it gives them that run game that they'll be able to support. And the other big news is
Kenneth Walker, I'm just going to rewind back, 25 years old, so I was incorrect.
prime.
Plenty of football ahead of him. What this sort of tells me is I don't think Jeremiah Love is getting through. They didn't think Jeremiah Love was gotten to pick 9. But as you just sort of touched on, Travis Kelce retained for another year, $12 million contract up to $15 million. He's going around again, the old boy. He's going around again.
We love to see it. Now, I'm not sure how I'm going to fit this all in 30 seconds, but I'll give it a go. The Las Vegas Raiders have signed Tyler Linderbaum, center, to 3 years, $81 million, with 60 of it guaranteed. They've signed Edge Quiddy out of Indianapolis, 3 years, $48 million. They've signed linebacker Quay Walker out of the Packers, 3 years, $40 million. Nakobe Dean out of the Eagles, 3 years, $36. Jalen Naylor, 3 years, $35. Eric Stokes, 3 years, $30. They have paid up this off-season. They've also retained Malcolm Kuntz, William Putnam, Edge Snowden, Charles Snowden, and Tristan McCullum. Massive off-season, with also trading Max Crosby. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Raiders look next year.
Gee whiz. Get your breath back after that one, hey? Nakobe Dean, that one slipped through me today. Jalen Naylor, that's a lot of money for a wide receiver that hasn't.
2 or 3, really, isn't he? Yeah.
Gee whiz. All right, moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers. We had a contract going to Tyler Baez. Tyler got a contract.
Tyler B.
Tyler B got a contract for 3 years, $30 million. They've also signed tight end Charlie Kohler, 3 years to 24, and fullback Alec Ingold. He's a name. There's a name for us. 2 years, $7.5 million. They've retained Khalil Mack. Other than that, we've got a few twos, and then Kimani Vidal. He did a bit last year. Can your 30 seconds be up yet? I'm done.
As we head to the Rams obviously made the big splash with the Trent McDuffie trade and then paid him 4 years, $124 million. He's one of the best corners in football. That was the position they needed to address, and they certainly have. They also signed Jalen Watson to 3 years, $51 million. 34 of that guaranteed.
2 Chiefs cornerbacks. How weird's that?
Yeah, don't see that too often, and have re-signed Tyler Higbee. So I think if you're a Rams fan, you are all in. They are saying, F those picks. They are going for a Super Bowl next year.
Super Bowl favourites at the moment, and also Cam Curl coming back as well. That's another good retention. As we move on to Miami Dolphins, not too much news here other than the departure of Tua, but they've brought in Malik Willis, and I really like this. 3 years, $67 million. He's getting paid 45 of that guaranteed. What I really like about this is Jeff Hafley was the Green Bay Packers defensive coach. He would have gone up against Malik Willis every single week in practice. He would have seen the reps, because the big knock on him right now is we haven't seen much of him. So
Jeff Hafley, traits. He's got the traits, whether he can turn it into players.
Hopefully he does.
Over to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have signed cornerbacks James Pierre, re-signed Eric Wilson, Jalen Redmond, Ivan Pace Jr., Bo Richer, Xavier Scott. Ivan Pace Jr., that is a name. I love that name.
He's good.
First round refusal tender. So they've been pretty quiet, the Vikings. Retained a lot of their guys. Look for them to make some moves. Is JJ their quarterback next year? Probably being one of them.
I don't think so. He'll be one of them, but I don't think he'll be the quarterback. Moving on to the Patriots, not too much news coming out of the Pats at the moment. Obviously, they've let go Stefan Diggs. They've signed edge rusher Dramont Jones to a 3-year, $39.5 million contract.
Tommy Cutlets.
Tommy Cutlets is the big retention there. His agent's been at work
with
Sean Stellato, who's been out there. Bringing him back for 2 years, 7.4 million, but that's basically it for the Pats.
The New Orleans Saints, they were busy. Signed Travis Etienne, running back out of the Jags, on a 4-year, $52 million deal. They also signed Noah Fant, David Edwards, the offensive lineman as well. I think the Etienne one's massive. Kamara's running out of gas, probably time at New Orleans. So by having the addition of Travis Etienne, you're giving Tyler Shuck a bit of help, bit of support. I love that for the Saints.
I find now this one, he's 27 years old, and signing a running back to a 4-year deal when they're 27, I think it's really silly. I don't know, you don't know how much guaranteed money's there, but running backs these days, you get to 28, 29. I would love to see stats on how many running backs have run for 1,000 yards over the age of 29. New York Giants have got next. Their big signing was Isaiah Likely. I love this.
Yeah,
I think
I like it.
he's electricity in a bottle, this bloke. 3 years, 40 million. We've also gone and got linebacker Tremaine Edwards for 3 years, 36 million. 23 of that guaranteed. Big contract for Jordan Stout, 3 years, 12.3 million. Love to see the punters getting a bit of love.
Giving the punters some love.
Love it. In terms of their retentions, they've brought back Isaiah Hodgkins, Jermaine Alamuniner, 3 years, 39 million. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
The Jets have been busy. They've signed edge Joseph Asai to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Demario Davis, the linebacker from the Saints, has officially left. He signed 2 years, $22 million, getting 15 of that guaranteed. The other big one, though, Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was a Steeler, went back to the Dolphins. He's been traded to the Jets. They also franchise tagged Breece Hall.
Huge. Jets have been busy. That's crazy. 7th rounder for Minkah.
Yeah,
That
crazy.
is nuts. Rightio, when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, we've mainly just had the exits today rather than
Anyone going in the
Yeah,
door?
they haven't brought anyone yet. Big retention for them is Jordan Davis. 3 years, 78 million extension, 65 of that guaranteed. That's a good retention there for the Eagles.
We'll head over to the Yinzers, Pittsburgh Steelers, division rivals of the Browns. They've signed Jamal Dean, cornerback. That is a big, big need and a big signing. Got Rico Dowdle as well, the
Like
former
that.
Panthers running back. Asante Samuel, they re-signed. And the big one, your man from the Colts, Michael Pittman Jr., 3 years, $59 million. What are your thoughts on that?
Big MPJ, mate. He was a legend for the Colts. When we've had such bad culture problems, he was one that you could hold his head high and say he was holding that sort of team together. Great get. The pick goes to Pittsburgh. I think massive contract. The Colts sort of needed to do it. We needed to cut back on our cash. I'm excited for the Steelers. I think they've got
two big wide receivers on the outside now with Pittman and
2 big tight ends.
yeah,
They got
DK,
PJ Washington and
Frymouth.
Fry, the big move.
So yeah,
These
weapons there for the quarterback. We don't know.
throw it up in the sky
Yeah.
and catch it. All right, moving on to the Niners. Big news for the Niners. No one really expected this, but Mike Evans has gone there for 3 years, $60 million. I love this. I think he's a veteran. Yes, he's old, but I think he's still got it. Like, he's a superstar. Just gets by on skill level alone. Having that veteran presence in that wide receiver room is massive for the Niners. Outside of that, they've brought back they've signed tackle Vidarian Lowe for 2 years, $12 million, and also retained Eddie Pinheiro for another 4 years.
Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks signed TBD. They've retained Rashid Shaheen, though. They traded for him early in the year. I think this is a massive retention because he single-handedly flipped games and playoff games. So it is a big deal. 3 years, $51 million with 35 guaranteed. But I think they had to do it because he is a genuine game winner.
Yeah, you can't. Money doesn't buy X Factor. Well, it does in this case, actually.
Dude.
All right, moving on to Tampa Bay. They've gone and signed Kenneth Gainwell, which is quite interesting. A stat that I did not know as of today. Kenneth Gainwell led the Pittsburgh Steelers in receptions last year, which is...
That's not good.
Yeah, that's not good, but maybe a good get for the Buccaneers. It'd be interesting to see how him and Bucky Irving sort of work together. They've also brought in linebacker Alex Anzalone for 2 years, $17 million, and retained Kate Otten for 3 years, $30 million.
Anzalone, a good linebacker out of Detroit, so I think that's a low-key good sign. I've got now one of the biggest dealers of the day to the Tennessee Titans. They have reshaped their whole organization. First, they've got Wan'Dale Robinson. He rejoins Brian Daboll from the Giants. 4 years, $70 million for him. John Franklin Myers, he got 3 years, $63 million. A big defensive tackle. Put him next to Jeffrey Simmons. That is a big, big deal. Alontae Taylor and Cordale Flott, 2 corners, signed them. That shores up the outside of their defense, which is important. So that's the Titans.
Yeah, not looking forward to seeing them twice a year with all these defensive brought in. It could be an absolute mayhem. Moving on to the Commanders, and they have gone and got a guy on the edge. It's the first time they have signed a decent edge rusher in probably about 3 years, I'd say. Odafe Away, don't make me say that one twice as well. 4 years, $100 million, 68 of that guaranteed. Whopping contract for him. They've also brought in Tim Settle for 3 years, $24 million, as well as a cornerback, and Meek Robertson for 2 years, $16. Big retention for them, I'd say. They brought back quite a few people, including Laramie Tunzel for another 2 years and $60 million. Marcus Mariota goes around again, as well as about 7 or 8 other people they've brought back for another year.
So that's the wrap of every team as of now. Obviously, that free agency is very, very crazy. The free agency moves very quickly, so I'm sure there'll be new moves as we're talking today. But we've got a cool little game. As we said earlier, we spoke to nearly 32 different fans or reporters from different teams, and we're going to get their takes. Rather than us talking about what they want for free agency, we'll go right to the source. So we're going to start off. Where do we want to start?
Let's start with back to the bench, Nicky Voglis. I think that's where we should start. He's a big 49ers.
Hey guys, I'm Nick from Back to the Bench. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc. My team is the San Francisco 49ers. So how I got into them was when I was about 10 or 11 years old. One of my cousins, who's much older than me, was over in the States and got me a Michael Crabtree and Dean Gore playing Guernsey. So I just kind of fell with that team, and I'm stuck with them now. And then I've got a big soft spot for the Seattle Seahawks as well, considering going over there and just really seeing the atmosphere of Lumen Field, which was absolutely electric. Heading into free agency and the draft, what positions I think we should attack? Look, I wouldn't mind getting a tight end. You got George Kittle getting on a bit with the age side of things, and he's getting a lot of injuries, and Achilles injuries in his 30s. It's not good. It's hard to come back from, and it's really sad to see such a great player of such high caliber go down like that. So attacking that tight end position would be ideal in this point of time. Dream free agent signing. I'd love when his contract runs out, Joe Burrow. He'd be great off the quarterback position, get his body right, and mate, he can throw absolute darts from left, right, and center. So he'd be perfect. And he's bloody unrealistic, that one. So I'll cop all the shit I have for that one. A lesser known free agent or trade target I'd love for us to come and get. I wouldn't mind a George Russell. I know he's a bit old, but I feel like he's got a couple good years left in him, and he could do the old Paul Chapman back in 2015, going from Geelong to Essendon, absolutely blitzing through the midfield at 33 years of age. He's a bit older than 33, but you still take a guy of that caliber too. And one move a bit disappointing in making his off-season is getting rid of Brock Purdy. Copped a lot of crap from the media, but I think he's absolutely primed, ready to go. Had a good season this year. I just needs to have the faithful backing of the fans, and I think stick by him because he's going to be really important for the next few years.
Righto, so he wants Brock Purdy to stick around, throw Joe Burrow into the mix. The double quarterback, I'm not sure how that'd work.
Well, triple quarterback, because by George Russell, I think he's Russell Wilson. So he's tipping the Niners to go hard at the QB room. And hey, look, you never know.
I'd hate to see the price it would cost their salary cap if they had Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, and then you could probably get Russell Wilson pretty cheap, but that'd be the most expensive quarterback room in the world's ever seen.
Maybe to save money, they do go for George Russell.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're thinking something a little bit different there. Oh, if you can drive a car, maybe you can drive a engine room.
Take a unique angle. We like it. Well, next up, we're going to stay in division in the NFC West, and we're going to go to the Arizona Cardinals. Friend of the program, Connor Askoff, Chon's a big cards man.
He's got a big leg on him as well. He came down to the pro kick trial with us, and yeah, bit of a talent, maybe a future punter.
G'day. Make sure you go give the boys a follow on all their socials. Doing great things and got some good things coming in the future as well. I'm Connor Askoff and I support the Arizona Cardinals. Why is that? Because Madden 2010 on the front cover had Larry Fitzgerald playing against the Steelers. So I chose him and pretty much played that whole game as the Cardinals and Fitzgerald. So I was on him then and I'm still on him now. Going into the free agency and draft period, it's quite obvious that we've got to look at the quarterback position. Kyler Murray being released was a sad day. I was pretty flat about it, but it's happened now, so we'll have to look into that. And by looking into that, I think we should go for Malik Willis. I've heard some good things coming out of Green Bay last year. A lot of potential. I think he's 26 years old, very poised, and didn't throw an interception last year too, so that's obviously a good thing as a quarterback. If there's to be someone else to look for, using our good draft capital, I'd go for Arvil Reese out of Ohio State as a top defensive lineman. He's, I think, quite young as well, so he'd be a good pickup. What will be disappointing if we looked for? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was disappointed about the whole Kyler situation, but can't do much about that. I don't think there's any need for us to look at a left tackle position. PJ Jr., he's locked and loaded, ready for a big 26. And we had finished the year with a good punter and a good kicker, so no need to look in those positions either. Yeah, go Cards.
The Chons, there's some good takes in the by the Chons. He'd be disappointed with the Malik Willis news. Obviously, he sent it to us before that deal got done.
And they got gas.
Settle for Gardner Minshew, unfortunately. Arvil Reese would be huge out of Ohio State. If the Cards can address that D-line, that would be a big move for them. But yeah, it's
Him or Ruben Bain.
stumpy arm Ruben Bain.
I like him. I think he's going to be a gun.
We'll head over to the Seahawks now. We have International Fan of the Year for the Seattle Seahawks, Seahawks Sam, to give us his thoughts on the Seahawks.
What's good, everyone? My name's Seahawks Sam, and you can find me at Seahawks_Sam on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X. And who do I go for? Well, I think it's a little bit obvious. I'm a die-hard Seattle Seahawks fan, and I somehow won the 2025 International Fan of the Year. How did I become a fan of this team? I give credit where credit is due to a rookie, Russell Wilson. The way he maneuvered the pocket, the way he escaped pressure, he got me into the damn Seattle Seahawks. And I've been a fan since, through all the ups and downs. And we don't talk about the downs, but obviously I've been faithful enough to see another Super Bowl, and I'm still riding the high. So we head into free agency. I just got some questions from the Outback boys. So, what positions do I think my team must address and why? Well, despite us having an elite all-pro corner in Devon Witherspoon, Rick Woolen and Josh Jobe are free agents. And although I think Josh Jobe does come back, we are definitely losing to Rick Woolen. I love that man. Had an elite rookie year, and he's genuinely a freak. He's like 6'4", and he can stick with anyone. But his price is going to be too high. So Rick Woolen's out the door. I do think we bring Josh Jobe back. But even if we do or don't, we need to address this position from a depth and future standpoint. And luckily for us, this draft is deep at corner. The other position I want to address a lot is edge. We had a deep edge group, but there's a lot of question marks in this group now. So Boye Mafe's walking out the door, so that's one guy gone. DeMarcus Lawrence is old. He's considering retirement, but even if he does come back, it's his last year. Uchenna Nwosu, he's leaning on the older age as well, but his cap hit is high. We could very well cut him for financial reasons. And then the only one left that's a sure guy is Derek Hall. And I want to extend him now before his price goes up. But luckily, again, this is a deep edge group. And I feel like with our 32nd overall pick, we trade back and address both these positions. Who's my dream free agent signing or trade target this offseason? Well, it was Crosby, and I was more than willing to give up 2 firsts, which is what it ended up being with the Ravens. But you can't beat the 14th overall pick. They had the better deal. They were the bargaining team that won. So the dream, Trey Hendrickson. As I said, I want to address the edge group, but is this realistic? Probably not. We do have the cap space, but I feel like it's overrated because it's going to get chewed up with extensions to Spoon, JSN, and hopefully bringing back some guys like Job. I think Kobe Bryant does come back. It's looking convincing with Kobe. And then another dream would be to bring back Kenneth Walker and Rashid Shaheed. Like, their markets are too high. That's what happens when you win a damn Super Bowl. And Rashid Shaheed had some insane plays that debatably won us the Super Bowl. That punt return in Week 16 against the Rams, if that doesn't happen, we don't make the Super Bowl. We don't win that game. It was a momentum switch. And Kenneth Walker had the best stint of his career. He won the Super Bowl MVP, so his price has only gone up, even though he's realistically not worth that because he hasn't been the healthiest back in his career. So my dream would be to get those guys back because they're luxuries. But will it happen? Probably not. So who's a lesser-known player, a free agent or trade target that I'd love to get? Well, because Kenneth Walker is likely out the door, I really love Tyler Algier. He has fresh legs. He's only 25. As a rookie, he had 1,000 yards. He's been sitting behind one of the best backs in football in Bijan Robinson. He's similar to Zach Charbonnet, but Charb's going to be out for a lot of the year. He's ACL tear, and we don't know what he'll be like when he comes back. So I really like Tyler Algier. I feel like he would outperform the value of a contract, and we would reap benefits, and he would fit our system. So then what's one move you'd be disappointed to see your team make or not make this offseason, and that would still be losing Kenneth Walker and Rashid Shaheed? We just won a Super Bowl with them. I've seen Kenneth Walker as a rookie, and, you know, I've got that emotional attachment to the guy. And then Rashid Shaheed, he brought us a Super Bowl. He was this year's Percy Harvin. He really, like, made the fans fall in love, and it's going to be sad to see them go. But what move would I be disappointed also that if we didn't make it, it would definitely be not addressing the edge group. We need to address the edge group, whether that's through trade, the draft, or free agency. Despite us having a good year with our edge group, we need to address that. But yeah, I'm going to be disappointed seeing those names I love walk out the door. But anyway, as always, guys, go Hawks and enjoy free agency.
Love that from Seahawks Sam, that in-depth. That is why he won International Fan of the Year. Addressing the edge, I love that. You've got to work on your strengths as well as your weaknesses. They won the Super Bowl because of their depth at edge and on the D-line. So they haven't done it yet, but I can see why he wants to keep that as the strength.
He's all across it, old Seahawks, Sammy. I think big one was they did bring back
Rashid Shaheed,
on a pretty huge contract, and like I think he hit the nail on the head there. He did win him some games, and look, it is a big contract, but the guy is a killer. Like, I think you can't pay enough.
How many, like, I know from a Browns perspective, we haven't had a kick return for a touchdown for about 5 years, and this guy had multiple in 1 year. Like, he's altering games, and they are game-changing plays. So I think it's a good deal as well. He'll be sad with the Kenneth Walker deal, obviously moving to the Chiefs, and he didn't get his man Tyler Algier. So
interesting. What do they do at running? Because I forgot Charbonnet's injured for most of next year as well. What are they going to do?
Yeah, they'll have to address it, and they definitely will find cheaper options, I'm sure. I can see why he wanted Tyler Algier. Before Bijan, he was 1,000-yard rusher, and he was really good. But obviously, he's signed elsewhere, so they're going to have to address it, and it'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks do.
Love it.
Finish off the NFC West, we have the LA Rams. We got the guys from Rams Down Under to take us through LA Rams. So
the big power couple.
The power couple. Let's see what they got to say.
Hey, my name's Reese, and my fiance Hannah and I run the account Rams Down Under on Instagram and TikTok. So I became a Rams fan first around 2018 when I saw them play the game against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, where they won 53-50. And I was watching it on TV and I thought, the Rams are pretty cool. And then I slowly became more and more of a fan over time, especially when they got Jalen Ramsey, who's my favourite player ever. Now, my dream addition for the off-season, firstly would have been us to get a cornerback, but obviously we traded for Trent McDuffie, which I'm over the moon about. So ecstatic about that. So the one target in the offseason I'd say would still to be to add another cornerback, which maybe we could do in the draft, or add another young receiver since Devontae Adams is getting a lot older, and after Puka and him, the wide receiver core's a bit bare. A dream free agent signing or trade target, I would say, would be Max Crosby. He'd be number one. It's a bit outlandish, and we already have a great defensive line, but he'd be so amazing. We could trade the 13th pick and maybe a couple of depth pieces on the defense for him. I'd really be in on that. Or the wide receiver from the Jags, Brian Thomas Jr., who's been in a lot of trade rumors. I'd love for him to be the second receiver behind Puka going forward into the future. He was an outstanding player 2 seasons ago in his rookie year. I think he'd be really good on the Rams. Now, a lesser known player that I'd like for us to target in free agency would be trading for him from the Saints, quarterback Spencer Rattler. I'd love for him to be our backup going into next season with Jimmy Garoppolo coming off contract. I think he'll go elsewhere. So we need a backup, and we also need a successor to Stafford. I think that Spencer Rattler would be perfect. Saints fans have said that he was not to blame for their downfall. He was pretty good. He has a very good arm. He can make a lot of tough throws. He just needs some good coaching, I reckon. And I could see him being the Rams quarterback into the future. Now, one move that I don't want us to do, I'd be very disappointed and very angry at, would be us taking Ty Simpson with that 13th overall pick. If we were to trade down maybe into the late first or early second and take him, sure, I'd kind of consider it, but I really think we should be using that pick on the best player available. It can be a receiver, a linebacker, an edge player, another corner. I just think we're going all in on this season. We need to win the Super Bowl. We shouldn't be using a top 15 draft pick on a young quarterback who's not going to help us win.
That is a really good point. I think going that early to take a quarterback when you do need to go all in this season.
I think that's probably the thing, though. Now they have traded that first-round pick for Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
They've sort of made the point that they ain't going to draft a quarterback to sit and wait. What do they have? Pick 12? That is
15,
yeah, they've got a pick that they can address a real need, whether it is edge depth, as Reece said there, or, yeah, they're not going to pick quarterback. I would be absolutely shocked. What about your thoughts on his Spencer Rattler call? I did not see that one coming.
No, I didn't expect Spencer Rattler either, but from what he said, it makes sense. He really talked me into it. At first, I was like, why would you bother? But I guess how that did unfold in the Saints season last year, I didn't think Rattler was terrible. I think it was just he was in a terrible team. And if he did have some good coaching, we know he's had the pedigree early on.
I'll tell you what I've got. I've got a counter. Will Levis.
Yeah.
There's your answer. Our guy, Billy Levis from the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to do stuff on him later, but he should be getting more talk about. He has all the talent in the world.
He's got a nice arm, doesn't he?
Imagine him sitting behind Stafford for 12 months, finishing off his rehab of his shoulder, and then getting unleashed with Sean McVay. That would be a weapon. So I like how Reece is thinking.
Yeah.
I think Will Levis would be perfect.
It's a good shout. Either way, I do like for teams like this when you got Stafford, you don't know how many more years he's going to play for. I think drafting or trading or signing a guy that's had the pedigree, they didn't really make it first up, and let's be honest, not most quarterbacks don't make it on their first team. But if you look at the likes of the Darnolds and the Danny Dimes of the first half of last year, these guys are making a second run in their career. So go after a guy like Will Levis. Why not? You're going to get them cheap. They're going to be not relied on to play for the next year or two, and then all of a sudden when your guy retires, all of a sudden they could feel that potential. So
yeah, I'd start Will Levis next year if I was in need. Like a team like the Browns, I think if they could pick up someone like Will Levis, he would start day one tomorrow. I think he's a top 32 quarterback in the league, and the price might be too high for someone like him, but I like the way Reece is thinking with addressing the backup quarterback.
love your work. Good work, Reece.
We're going to head to the AFC North. I can't wait to hear what Nick Pendone from SI Cleveland says about the Browns and a few of the boys from the Snap Count Society talking about their teams in that division. So we'll start off with Buff from the Steelers.
Go to the Steelers.
For Yinza.
G'day guys, it's Buff here from Snap Count Society. You can find all of our content to do with our podcast on all of your socials, Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. Obviously, I am a Pittsburgh supporter. I bought Madden 06 back in 2005 and didn't know who to go for, didn't know who to pick on the game, and my dad was a Pittsburgh fan, said that he liked the way they played blue collar city, smash mouth football, and obviously had some success. He was younger, so he told me to go for Pittsburgh, and that's sort of what I did, and I was pretty lucky. Obviously, Super Bowl 40 was that year we beat Seattle, and was lucky enough to stay home and watch the game as we beat Arizona a couple of years later with a toe tap was from Santonio Holmes in the end zone. In terms of who I think Pittsburgh what we need to address this offseason is pretty glaring, that we need to address our quarterback position and our wide receiver position. So hopefully we do something in those spots. We probably need to address and get some more secondary depth to help Joey Porter Jr. out as well. So some unrealistic sort of ideas. A dream signing, I'd love to see us go and get Alec Pierce. We won't get him, but he'd be a great field stretcher next to DK Metcalf, take some pressure off of him. I also think it'd be great if we were able to go out and get maybe a Rashid Shaheed, and he can have that double impact and again field stretcher, but have an impact in the returning game as well. Someone I hope we do sign. It'd be great to see if we can get Kyler Murray or Malik Willis and maybe keep the ties on one of those guys on the preface that Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, and just see what we have in them. Otherwise, we do have Will Howard in reserve, but I think those guys obviously show some great upside with their athleticism and the way they're able to play. So it'd be interesting to see what they'd be able to do in our system. In terms of maybe some more realistic signings that we might be able to see, I think Isaac Seumalo is probably going to leave Pittsburgh via free agency. So it'd be great if we can maybe get Elijah Vera-Tucker. He's been injured, so he's obviously a quality player, but it'd be great to get him in and shore up our guard position. And maybe some lesser known sort of names, or maybe not lesser known, guys that are in a star-studded team, but Kobe Bryant would be great. So maybe if we can get him in as a safety, or Kevin Byard to provide some help in our secondary. Jamel Dean's a big name that would be awesome to maybe if we can go have a crack at too, but we spend a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball. Those are some names that I'm looking, and hopefully we can maybe go out and get. The one thing I don't want Pittsburgh to do is just stay and just don't change anything. We roll back the same group, but let's wait and see. But really appreciate, shout out and love to Outback to Endzone, and ciao for now.
So Buff will be a happy man with the Steelers, I think. They got Jamal Dean, the corner, and also traded for Michael Pittman. So the two things he said they needed to address, they have.
Didn't quite get Alec Pierce, thank God, but they did get Michael Pittman, the Colts wide receiver. And as we were sort of touching on before, that is a big receiver room there. You got DK, you've got Michael Pittman, the two big tight ends as well. They just need a quarterback. I think that's the main thing they need to address.
They've even signed Rico Dowdle now to go in that running back room as well. So they've got the weapons. It's just the guy pulling the strings. Maybe Will Levis there.
Maybe that.
Imagine Will Levis there.
Oh, I don't mind that.
That we could be onto something here. Will Levis
Someone
to
pick
Pittsburgh.
up the phone.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
Someone at Pittsburgh get onto Will Levis. Imagine him dealing with all those weapons. That cannon of an arm, just throwing it up there.
Just lobbing them off, and just big boys going making big plays.
Oh, there we are.
Here
You've
we
heard it
go.
here first. Outback to Endzone.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right, who we got next?
We got Benny to talk about the Baltimore Ravens from the Snap Count Society.
Boys, hello. My name is Ben. I'm from Snap Count Society. You can check us out there, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the whole works. I am a Baltimore Ravens fan. Have been now for a few years. I actually liked Joe Flacco to begin with. Him and Andrew Luck, funnily enough, were my two favourite players a few years ago, and then had to make a decision. So went with the Ravens, and they drafted Lamar, so I was pretty happy about that. So can't complain. I'm also happy about the Max Crosby news. Get in there. That was a massive need for us. The edge, obviously the trenches on both sides of the ball. So would love for us to keep Tyler Linderbaum. Don't know if that's going to happen. Looks like he's going for a nice payday. Another one I'd like for us to get probably on the offensive side of the ball on the O-line is Elijah Vera Tucker. He'll be a good one to add to our team. We really need help pretty much all across the line, apart from Ronley Stanley at left tackle. So if we can keep Linderbaum, add more to the offensive line, that'll be great. Another one I would love for us to get, which I don't think we will now because we probably don't have any more picks or high enough picks in the next 2 years, is AJ Brown, or just a nice, good wide receiver, to be honest, to help out Lamar and Zay Flowers and the boys. Zay's a great player, but I just don't think he's a 1A wide receiver. So to get, that alpha dog that everyone talks about, that'll be great. But yeah, that is all from me, and go Ravens.
So we got Benny from the Ravens there. I think he hit the nail on the head, really, with the receiver part. I think they've got to address it in some way. How they do, I'm not sure, but they've got the quarterback. They just need the weapons.
Especially losing Isaiah Likely as well. I think that's huge. When you think back, a lot of those number one receivers in Baltimore for a long time now, it's either been Zay Flowers or Hollywood Brown was probably their number one before that. These short, zippy, fast guys, give them a big boy. Like Michael Pittman probably would have been the perfect sort of target for them. They just need someone that can go up and compete for it in the air.
And I think their defensive game, obviously Max, he's going to be a game wrecker, and it goes to show they are all in. They want to win now. Put them on their defense. But offensively, I've got question marks. Derrick Henry, when is he finally going to fall off the cliff? He's the man that can just continue to be good, but
Pendlebury,
it might be next year. And then as we're talking about, they've lost Tyler Linderbaum, who got an absolute packet to go to the Raiders. Not knock the man for that $60 million guaranteed for a centre.
I've got a bone to pick with this because they could have signed him to a fifth-year option last year, and they didn't.
That's cost them, hasn't it? So, I think it's going to be interesting for Baltimore. They're clearly in the win-now mode. They've got Lamar Jackson, but I personally still think they have a lot of holes that they need to fill to be an ultimate Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I don't think they're there yet, the Ravens. I don't think they're there. But Max Crosby is, could just be the difference, hey? I think like him going into that, you never know what one player can make.
Can wreck games.
Literally.
We'll head over to my team now, the Cleveland Browns. We've got Nick Pannone from Big Play Cleveland, one of the legends we met while we were over in the States. He knows his Cleveland Browns, so I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
What's up, guys? Nick Pannone here with the Big Play Cleveland Show. You can also find my Browns coverage on Cleveland Browns on SI, talking a little bit of free agency today. Now, I've been a Browns fan for my entire life. My parents had season tickets. Their parents, my grandparents, were season ticket holders, passed it down to them. So grew up loving the Browns, went to school with the specific intent to cover the Cleveland Browns. And today we're talking a little bit about NFL free agency right around the corner. I'm expecting the Browns to be pretty active here in this free agency period. Look out for them to address their offensive line, specifically maybe that interior of the offensive line. A big name out there, Baltimore Ravens center Tyler Linderbaum has that working relationship with new Browns head coach Todd Monken. That would certainly be a viable offensive line asset for whoever's playing quarterback. That's the biggest thing the Browns need to work on this offseason. It's going to be tough to address quarterback. I get it. But you got to fix the rest of that offense, the offensive line, the wide receivers. I think maybe a realistic name that Browns fans should know, Rashid Shaheed, contributed in the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, but can be a punt returner as well as a wide receiver. The Browns have issues on special teams. They don't have a ton of depth at wide receiver. He could fill both of those spots for the Cleveland Browns. I'm expecting a fun week in free agency. Appreciate all of you guys, and go Browns.
Sorry, Nick. These guys have already gone.
I loved the angle Nick was going for.
Right.
Browns need to address offensive line. They need to address wide receiver and special teams. Obviously, I've already said multiple times today how much I would have loved Rashid Shaheed, so he would have been perfect. The Browns haven't had a punt return or a kick return touchdown for about 5 years. So, unfortunately, Linderbaum was too much money and Rashid Shaheed isn't at the Browns. He stayed at Seattle, but love the angle, and I think that's the way we're going to address free agency.
Yeah, I feel for him. Hey, everybody's listening.
With the Bengals being quiet, we're going to leave the Bengals to next week and address them next week. So we'll head over to the Las Vegas Raiders. They've been massive today during free agency, so I can't wait to get Brandy on to follow her pre-free agency take, but let's listen to Brandy Flores about the Las Vegas Raiders.
Hello, my Aussie friends. My name is Brandy Flores. I cover the Las Vegas Raiders for Raider Nation Radio 920 AM. You can find my social media handles at _ Brandy Flores, Brandy with a Y, on X and Instagram. And you can follow us online on air, Raider Nation Radio 920 AM. And it is Monday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here in the United States, which means NFL free agency has officially kicked off, up and running. And the Las Vegas Raiders wasting no time grabbing one of the biggest free agents on the market, someone who I really wanted them to pick up, and that is center Tyler Linderbaum. They signed him to a 3-year, $81 million deal. Apparently, according to the insiders, nobody was matching that. This is going to be a great asset for the Raiders, as they will be drafting what everyone will assume will be the first overall pick in the upcoming draft, and that is quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. This is a great move for the Raiders to provide protection for a very young quarterback. Now, the Raiders also have the 14th overall pick after trading away Max Crosby, which I know crushed the hearts of a lot of Raider Nation. But when it comes to a rebuild, it's going to be very essential that you get as much as you can, especially when you're basically starting over once again with a new quarterback this coming year. And at 14 overall, since they signed Tyler Linderbaum, I think it would be cool if they drafted a wide receiver out of USC in Mekhi Lemon. He was an absolute dog and a huge playmaker for the Trojans this past season. And his ability to make plays happen, I think, will be a great asset for someone like Fernando to kind of grow up with in the Raiders organization. And I'm still keeping a track of all the free agents going on right now. And, you know, lesser known player that I think that the Raiders should pick up in free agency is a linebacker from Seattle, Boye Mafe. The Clint Kubiak, the new head coach of the Raiders, really wants to switch over to a 3-4 defense, which means you're going to need more linebackers. And Boye Mafe is extremely versatile. And I don't think he's not well known. He did just win a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, but he would be a great pickup. And I think after signing Tyler Linderbaum, that would be another great pickup to get. And, you know, when it comes to being disappointed, I think the Raiders need so much this offseason. And I think that they've already addressed a lot of things already that it's going to be hard to be disappointed, because it sounds like they're hitting the ground running and they're hitting, you know, all facets so far. But yeah, very excited for the Las Vegas Raiders draft. I will be out in Pittsburgh covering it with Raider Nation Radio. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. I heard you guys are going to the draft. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Brandy's going to be busy. The Raiders, as they've signed half of the free agency list already, obviously very happy with Tyler Linderbaum to start. And I think she's spot on. When the Browns played the Raiders this year, we had 10. And if you set out, I don't care who's a quarterback, and I said it a few weeks ago, I don't care if you've got Tom Brady a quarterback. If you are getting 10 sacks and that many pressures, you might as well end Fernando Mendoza's career now. So getting him the center, it's just such an important part of quarterback play too. The guy who's giving the quarterback the ball. So that's a good need addressed straight away.
100%. And like the amount of times that Argenti got blown up in the backfield as well, we didn't get a true example of what he can actually do just because of that O-line. So they've gone out that, as you sort of said, that center, Shining Vinderbaum is going to be huge. Mendoza, just sort of help him get to the speed quite quickly. And then they've signed a bag on, like, they've gone out and got guys on defense as well, haven't they? They've got the Colts Quiddy Pay, 3 years, $48 million. I think Pay never really lived up to that first round talent in Indy, but look, he's still got potential. He's still reasonably young. He could go there. And
how many guys do you see too that the first stop it doesn't work and then the second stop clicks? So I think it's really good. A change of scenery, a change of game style. It could be the spot rather than the initial destination.
100%. Two proven linebackers with Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. I know Brandy was after Boye Mafe, but I think they've almost done better there, to be honest with you. Quay Walker's a star, and Nakobe Dean, same again, young star coming from Philly.
They've been busy early. The other one I want to touch on, though, is Malachi Lemon. If they can sign him, I love the idea of matching him up with Fernando Mendoza. You see the Cincinnati Bengals did it with T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. When you get a quarterback and with a rookie receiver and an A-grade rookie receiver that can make like Lemon can, I think that could be a really good thing to look at down the track.
100%. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think that's probably a bit too early for Lemon. I don't really want to see him get drafted. I wouldn't draft him at pick 15.
So that's today's episode. We touch over free agency, a few special guests, which were great to touch base with.
The news is just going to keep coming as well, isn't it? We are going to be flat stick for this free agency period. So
We've just lost, like an hour of our time. Probably go to our phone and there'll be another dozen guys re-signed or signed elsewhere. So we better get back into looking up and seeing what's happening. But jumping on and listening, thank you to all our special guests. Please make sure to give them a follow. They're all absolute legends and know football as well as anyone. So get on and support them, whether they're Aussies or from the States. Our draft trip coming up. So we've officially launched the schedule. The plan is in place. Limited spots available as they are running out the
going
door.
quick.
They're
They're
running
going
out.
in there. If you want to experience some of the biggest colleges on the biggest stage, literally be in there for tour facilities and also be there for the draft. And we were literally chatting to someone today and we're like, we will see Fernando Mendoza get drafted. And who's saying that he might?
Imagine if he's Tom Brady and you go, oh yeah, I was there the day Fernando Mendoza got drafted. Like, that is insane. So jump in and lock up your spots before it's too late.
Plus the bar scene's going to be electric. So you don't want to be missing out on that.
Very good, righto. We'll see you around like a result.